he was he was really one of the meekest, tamest, most passive positional players. But what he liked to do, his very special talent, I think, was playing end games. The last phase of the game where there are not many pieces on the board, and usually in those positions, that's when a technician tries to earn the payoff. Go into an end game, take all of the distractions and complex factors of the game out of it. They're distilled and filtered out of it, and all that is left maybe is just one very small advantage that the strategic or positional player has had his eye on the whole game. And that's the way Boris played. He was a very good endgame player. When he arrived in the southeast United States, there was obviously a very talented young player who lived in Alabama, 2 hours away. And Boris became his trainer. And of course that young player was my best friend, Stuart Rachel. He had known Boris before he met me, and he was training with Boris before he met me. Stuart was, when he was young, he was also a very tactical, combinational player. But really, towards the end of his career, compared to other good chess players, Stuart was really a positional player. Boris had an amazing effect on Stuart's chess. And Stuart never was as tame or timid as Boris was. And Boris also, he didn't care very much about openings or modern theory. He wasn't really trying to prove anything in the beginning of the game. He just wanted to play a game of chess and use his technique and slowly strangle, the opposition. But Stuart was always right up on the cutting edge. He played very sharp openings, which, when he was young, tended to, channel the game towards positions where he could use his combinational gift. But anyway, I want to talk about Boris. Boris was, he might have been 5'5", 5'6", was kind of portly, he had very hairy, except that he was bald, in the middle on top. It had fluffy black hair coming out of the sides, and he didn't speak very good English. He spoke enough for a chess player to get by, but he was in his way. He was very egotistic in his way, and why not? There was nobody that could handle him in the Southeast. All he had to do to win a couple $100 every weekend, or a few $100, was just to show up at the tournament, because he was so good and his technique was so good and he knew so much about chess that usually he just blew through everybody and won the tournament without even really much competition. And it was such a routine experience to go to a chess tournament and to be, among the, top 5 or 6 players at the tournament and be sitting close to Boris on board 1, but never quite, reaching board 1. Or I did have a chance to play about 3 or 4 games with Boris, and I'll talk about those later. But so I got to watch Boris a lot, and I was around him a lot. And he had this, he had funny mannerisms. He would sit, he was very portly and solid, and I remember when he sat at the board, he would sit absolutely erect. And the only movement that you would see from him is twiddling of his thumbs. And he would just twiddle his thumbs and sit and think. And then when he moved his pieces, he was very careful with it. His pieces would always be in the precise center of the square. And when he moved a piece, he would put his fingers on it and move it to the square he wanted to move it to, make sure it was right in the center of the square, facing in the proper direction, and then very deliberately let go of it. As if, there was some sacred property which the pieces of the chessboard had, and which he had to honor. And he had very interesting mannerisms. Of course, he almost always won.